Hello everybody, my name is Omega Zero, and this is the first fanfiction reading that I'm doing, and something that I wanted to do for a while. This is Maternal Instinct by, the author's name is Blackbird, and it's a Kim Possible fanfiction, and it's been around since, holy crap, 2006? Yeah, I guess I'm reading that right, 2006. And I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, and just never got around to it. Either been busy with doing other videos and stuff, but this is the first time I'm actually doing a recording, an audio recording, and not just doing a Let's Play, so bear with me on this. I'm very new at this, and not sure how my bit of voice acting is going to be, because it's been a long time since I've seen anything Kim Possible, so... Okay. Disclaimer. I do not own anything related to Kim Possible that is by Disney and her creators. Primary author's note. A bit of warning. This story will be a Kigo fic. Usually I don't like to give the couples out and blurb up front, but I do know some people have a problem with this pairing, so this is your chance to get out now. Well, you don't get. For everyone else, enjoy. Maternal Instincts, Chapter 1. Surprise! Dr. Draken muttered to himself as he sat hunched over his computer and typed away furiously. He was so caught up in his work that he failed to notice the slender form of his second-in-command, Shigo, standing behind him. She had addressed him a few times to get his attention, but it didn't seem to be working. She sighed, then cupped her hands over her mouth. "Dr. D!" she screamed loudly as she could. Said doctor jumped out of his chair nearly 2 feet, then spun around quickly when he recovered to glare at her. "Shigo, what have I told you about interrupting me?" "You called for me, remember?" She countered, placing her hands on her hips. "Oh yes, that's right. I need your help in my greatest plan to get rid of Kim Possible." "Since when do you not need my help? So what are you— Ow!" she yelled, then he poked her with the syringe. She watched as he drew out a small amount of blood, then pulled the needle back. "And what was that about?" she asked, rubbing the now sore spot. "Oh no, you're not going to try and clone me, are you? Because I told you already many times, I might add, no clones!" No, this isn't a clone at all," he replied, tucking the syringe away. "This is something entirely different, and it will make it impossible for Kim Possible to stop us for quite some time." Shigo gagged at the horrible pun. "How long have you been working on that one?" "Only a few days. Why?" She simply rolled her eyes, then turned and walked back out of the room. She was positive whatever he had planned would fail like it always did, and they would continue the pattern all over again. Kim sighed as she laid on her bed. Last month had seemed busier than usual. Aside from the usual school-related activities, Draken was also having Shigo steal various genetics equipment, retrovirus designs, and most disturbing of all, her own medical records. When her physician, Dr. Anderson, had called to tell her the news that she was both shocked and surprised at the idea. Even now, thinking about Draken having that kind of personal information about her sent a disgusted shudder down her spine. More disturbing was the thought of what he might do with the information. The first thought was another army of Kim clones, but Wade dismissed that when he pointed out that Draken hadn't stolen any incubators to grow one in. Thankfully, that also ruled out Ron's idea of some kind of Kim monster. So what could it be, she wondered. He has to be big with the way Shigo's been sneaking around. I just hope it's not another little Diablo's kind of plan. She sighed at the memory of Draken's last big scheme. It had actually been quite well laid out and might have succeeded had Ron not been so passionate about the changes to his beloved Bueno Nacho. His importune call had forced the Mad Doctor's hand, and from there things quickly spiraled into the usual pattern. Afterwards, however, was anything but usual. She was devastated when she learned that Eric was a Syntho drone, but even more shocked when Ron admitted his feelings for her and were a little more than friendly during their capture. don't know about this, then just watch the movie, so the drama. She then surprised herself, admitting the same feelings for him. After they beat Draken, they returned to the prom, spoiler alerts, and, with a little help from Rufus, held hands, danced, and eventually kissed. It had not been her first kiss, but it was certainly the most special. It signified a lifetime of friendship turning into something more, and a hope that this new relationship would last forever. For the first month or so, it certainly seemed that way. However, Kim's reminiscing was cut off by the trademark beep of her communicator. She pushed herself up with a slight sigh, and then grabbed the communication device. "What's the sitch, Wade?" "Got a dragon sighting," the young genius replied. "It seems he and Shigo are robbing a better purchase." "The electronics store?" "Kim, please. It's much more than just an electronics store. It's the premier place for everything computer related. Though I do have to admit, their Nerd Patrol is overrated." "Right. So," Kim rolled her eyes. "So, any idea what Dragon may want there? It doesn't exactly fit his recent pattern." "Dragon has a pattern?" he asked rhetorically, and then shrugged. "In any case, I don't know. Maybe he just needs some new monitors or computer equipment." "Then I'm sure he had no intention of paying retail," she replied, slipping right into her infamous mission mode. "Call around and set up a ride. Looks like I might have to do some late night shopping. Already on it." Kim nodded as the connection was shut down. She sprang to her feet and moved quickly towards her closet to get her mission gear. She mentally prepared herself as she changed clothes. Going into a fight with Shigo without being ready was a very bad idea. The older woman was exceptionally skilled in martial arts, and her plasma powers made her an even bigger threat. Kim was honestly surprised that she had survived as many of their fights as she did. Something about fighting Shigo helped bring out the best in her own fighting skills. Whether it was the will to survive or simply not wanting to be outdone, she always gave it everything she had when they would meet. In many ways, Shigo was much more of her arch nemesis than Draken. And yet despite that fact, or maybe because of it, she couldn't help but have a small amount of respect for the woman. Maybe it was simply because of her fighting skills, or because she was the only one that could truly challenge her, but the respect was there. "Come on, Possible," she chided herself mentally. "This is no time to get sentimental. Shigo's been outrunning you for the past few weeks now, and you need to get your head in the game. She's not going to get away this time, and you are going to get back what she took from you." Resolve in place and mission gear set, Kim walked down the stairs and out of her house. She was determined to make this the last time she would have to go after Shigo like this again. Let's see, have it, don't want it, tacky, and ugh, just plain horrible, Shigo muttered to herself as she browsed through the DVD section. She had no idea exactly why Dr. Draken would want to break into the store, but she figured as long as she was there, she might as well add some things to her movie collection. Unfortunately, despite the store's impressive collection, there was really nothing there to add that interested her. She already had most of the good ones, while others just looked something and some were downright offensive. Honestly, did the world really need another entry into the Canadian Cobbler series anyway? She picked up a copy of said movie and ignited her plasma powers, quickly turning the disc and case into a melted hunk of plastic. I have no idea what Canadian Cobbler is a parody of or whatever. I have no idea. If you know, please post it in the comments below. So this is what you've been reduced to? Destroying movies? A familiar voice quipped. Dropping the still sizzling blob, Shigo turned to find her nemesis Kim Possible standing at the other side of the aisle. As always happened when she faced the teen hero, a smirk found its way onto her face. "Just killing some time until you showed up, Kimmy. Besides, you should thank me. Selling that movie here is a bigger crime than anything I ever did," she replied sardonically. "I think we'll let the courts decide that one," Kim replied, going into a defensive position. "Right, like you'll ever get me in court," the pale-skinned woman replied as she surrounded her other fist in green plasma. "Seem to remember putting you there a couple times, just like jail, and I'll be happy to do so again." While keeping her eyes firmly on Shigo, she inclined her head slightly to the right. "Ron?" "Yo," he replied, poking his head out around the corner of the aisle. See if you can find Dragon while I handle Shigo, Kim ordered. Gotcha, KP, he said before he disappeared. As Kim turned her full attention back to Shigo, she noticed the villainess was already charging towards her. She jumped over the plasma charge strike and spun in midair so that she could plant both heels on the pale woman's back. Shigo grunted as she fell to the floor, but quickly recovered and swiped at the redhead again with her left hand. Kim leapt over the attack, causing the green plasma-covered fist to break and melt several of the DVDs on the rack. Kim landed on top of the fixture, but before she could plan her next move, Shigo kicked it with all her might, causing it to topple over. Using all the skills her years of cheerleading provided, Kim deftly jumped from one fixture to another as they continued to topple in domino fashion. Unfortunately, by the time she reached the last one, Shigo was already there waiting for her. She went into a crouch and held onto the top of the fixture, and her body tensed as she waited for just the right moment. As the plastic and metal construct fell closer to the ground, and more importantly, the awaiting Shigo, Kim steadied herself further, then launched off the fixture at the last moment. Again, her cheer skills combined with the momentum helped her avoid a blast of charged plasma, and she landed with a perfect handstand onto one of the displayed computer desks. She bounced off that and onto the floor, then kicked one of the rolling chairs towards the now charging pale-skinned woman. Unfortunately for her, Shigo used the rolling piece of furniture as a springboard to send herself flying towards her adversary. Kim dived under one of the other desks, then pulled out one of the small wooden keyboard panels and used it as a shield against the deadly glowing claws. Not surprisingly, the cheap wood shattered the second Shigo hit it, and it provided enough of a distraction for Kim to bring her foot up and strike the other woman in the chin. She then quickly pounded on her, grabbing her by the wrists and holding her hands down in an attempt to keep them from being used. What is Dragon planning, Shigo? Why did he want to steal my medical records? How many times do I have to tell you, princess? She remarked in her usual sarcastic tone. I never understand Dragon's plans. Hell, half the time I don't even listen to them. Then why do you keep going along with them? For the chance to fight you, of course. The answer caught Kim by surprise, and caused her to inadvertently relax her position. Shigo used this as an opportunity to slide her legs from underneath the redheads, then kick her as hard as she could in the stomach. Kim went flying through the air for a short distance and landed hard on her back. She groaned as she held onto a table to pull herself up. As she did, noticed it displayed the latest in portable music devices, in particular the new eCapsule Micro. I've been meaning to get one of these, she mused as he picked up the tiny piece of equipment. It was about half the size of a pen in length and the size of a quarter in width. How it was able to hold 2,000 songs was beyond her. Okay, it's a parody of the iPod. I get it now. Even with all the tech advice Wade gave her. While it certainly was a cool gadget, the price seemed a little out of her range. Unless, of course, she could convince her parents that she really, really needed it. She filed that thought away for later and went back to the matter at hand, namely, the enraged green and black suited woman with the glowing fist running towards her. Acting quickly, she pulled on the device she was admiring, easily snapping the cable that should have kept it in place, and threw it as hard as she could at her opponent. Her aim was perfect and it smacked Shigo dead center in the forehead, snapping her head back slightly. Ow! She screamed after a slightly pause, rubbing the now sore spot. Kim used the distraction as her chance to charge and knock Shigo to the ground once more, but the two began to grapple with one another, rolling around every so often as they each struggled for dominance. As they continued to fight, they failed to notice a certain blue-skinned doctor watching them from the safety of a home theater Simpson display. Okay, it's a parody of Best Buy Geek Squad. Yeah, I just got that. Thankfully for him, the store had been thoughtful enough to build a small nook in which to display their new product, which provided him an ample hiding spot. He poked his head out from the foam wooden wall, to get a better look at the fight. By now, they were up on their feet again, with their hands still interlocked with the others, and continuing their back and forth. "Come on, just a little bit more," Dr. Draken muttered as he gripped the small, simple pistol in his hand tighter. A maniacal smile crossed his face when Kim Possible was turned so that her back was exposed to him. He brought the gun up to fire, but as he took aim, the two flipped so that Chica was the one facing him. "No!" He groaned and lowered the weapon, waiting for his next opportunity to strike. It was a longer wait than he would have liked, however, as they kept that pattern for several minutes. Finally, Kim was able to gain the upper hand and kick Shigo away from her. Seeing the opportunity reappear, Draken took aim once more and was about to fire when... "Draken!" Ron shouted as he tackled the mad scientist. The surprise attack caused the good doctor to fire his weapon. As he fell, he watched in horror as his perfect shot missed, and the dart carrying the formula he concocted, the formula which was to bring down Kim Possible, bounced around aimlessly around the store. It ricocheted off monitors, desks, towers, and just about everything else there was in sight. His hopes returned when we saw it finally fly towards her, but it was only to scratch against the exposed part of her lower arm. It did cut her a bit, in which his mind counted for something. But even that victory was stripped from him when the dart finally found a home in Shigo's arm. "Oh, that's not good," he thought in dismay. For her part, Shigo let out a small yelp when she felt the dart hit her. A sweep kick from Kim sent her to the floor before she could figure what had hit her, and proceeded to dislodge the dart. "Now's my chance," Dr. Draken mused. He tried to get up, but found Ron still holding onto his legs. "Get off of me!" he shouted as he kicked the blonde sidekick repeatedly. Once he freed himself, he stood up and pulled out a small control. With the press of a button, part of the store's roof exploded, of course, and his hover car came floating into view, rope ladder already extended. "Shigo, we're leaving!" he announced abruptly as he jumped into the ladder. "But we didn't even do anything!" she protested. "I said we're going, so go!" "Whatever," she muttered as she turned back to Kim. "See you around, princess." She tossed a rather expensive computer monitor at the teen hero and used the distraction of her catching it to leap onto a nearby desk, then jump for the rope ladder. Kim watched helplessly as the two made their escape, as Draken yet again shouted how she wasn't all that. Kim sighed, then placed the monitor back where it belonged, as Ron walked out to her. "You okay, KP?" "I'm fine," she replied. "But you're bleeding," he said, pointing out a small cut on her arm. "No big," she waved it off. "I'm more concerned about what those two wanted here. They didn't seem to do anything other than Shigo trying to take a few movies and basically annoy us. Maybe she wanted to add something to her personal collection. I highly doubt it, and even if she did, it really wasn't worth all this." "Yeah," Ron agreed before he remembered something. "Oh, I did get this off Draken." She looked at the object he held in his hand. It looked like a small pistol, but it was far too simple to be anything really effective. From what she could tell, there was no real clip or real firing mechanism beyond the trigger. The barrel also looked too large for just a bullet, so she assumed it had to be for something else. It was then she remembered how she got her newly required cut, and that something had fallen out of Shigo when the villainess fell. In almost no time, she found the spent dart on the floor and picked it up to examine it. "What do you think it is?" Ron asked, looking at the object as well. "No idea. I'll have to have Wade analyze it," she said as she tucked it into one of the pouches on her belt. "Think Dragon's up to another big scheme? I don't know. This seems pretty much standard for him. Maybe he just decided to go back to his usual stuff. Seems to be happening a lot these days," Ron half muttered. Kim stared at him in shock. Though she was sure he didn't mean it to come off as harsh sounding as it did, it still struck a nerve in her. He apparently picked up on this sudden change and instantly regretted what he said. Oh, Kim, I'm sorry, I didn't, he started. She held up a hand to stop him. Don't worry about it. I guess there's still some awkwardness. Some awkwardness floating around us, huh? Yeah. They stood in uncomfortable silence that had become all too common when the subject of their short-lived relationship came up. It permeated for several long seconds before Kim finally spoke. Hey, why don't we go to Bueno Nacho as a post-mission victory? It'll be my treat. You sure that's a good idea? They're having a sale on chimeritos, 2 for $1. And of course, I'd have to go with my standard Naco order, he explained. Naco! Rufus agreed, poking his head out of Ron's pocket. It's okay. I have enough money to cover all that. I hope. Kim's fears were resolved when she found she not only had enough to cover 4 chimeritos and a Naco, but also a medium soda as well as a small tray of nachos for herself. Doesn't Kim usually eat salad when she's there? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. They sat at their usual booth with Ron stuffing his face as usual, while Rufus munched happily away on the chimarito his human pal had spared. Kim decided to eat in a more human way and merely snacked lightly on her nachos, and she watched a red light from her communicator scan over the objects they had salvaged from Dr. Dragon's latest, presumably failed scheme. So, Wade, what's the sitch? She asked, turning the communicator towards her. From what I can tell, it's a normal CO2 gun, he replied before taking a sip of his soda. Probably used to shoot that dart. And before you ask, no, I don't know what was in it. There wasn't a big enough sample left for a proper analysis. Thanks anyway, Wade. Like you say, no big. She flashed him a smile before she turned the device off, and then rested her head on her right hand. She flinched a bit as the action caused the still fresh cut to throb slightly. As she nonchalantly changed over to her other arm, Ron took the time out of his snackage to give her a worried look. Kim, you should really take care of that, he advised, pointing his index finger at the cut. Huh? She replied absently before she looked at the wound. Oh, it's nothing really. I've had worse. Yeah, I know. She quirked an eyebrow at the tone of the reply. This, like his response earlier in the night, it seemed to carry with it an uncharacteristic air of spite to it. So assumed it came from the lingering romantic feelings they both had. But she couldn't figure out why something like that would set him off. Using a technique she knew still calmed him down, she laid her hand gently on top of his. Ron, are you sure everything's alright? She asked softly. Yeah, it is, he replied. Any anger he had subsided. Sorry about that. I just don't like it when you try to brush off your injuries. You could seriously get hurt doing that. I know, but it comes with our line of work, right? Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I'll take care of it when I get home, okay? Alright. Good. And could you please not give me that talk again? You kind of sound like my mom there, and... She stopped and shuddered. Ron chuckled a bit at the reaction. Guess that was a little over-parenting, huh? I'll do my best not to sound like either set of parental units ever again. But that still doesn't mean I can't be worried about you. I wouldn't have it any other way. They sat there for a moment to enjoy a silence that for once wasn't awkward. One that they hadn't been in for a long time. The silence that came with the unspoken bond between them, and that they would be there for each other no matter what life threw at them. While the two teen heroes strengthened their bond, miles away a different scenario was playing out. Dr. Draken and Shigo returned to his lair in defeat once again. This hardly came as a surprise to Shigo, as she figured his latest plan would fail even before it was started. Not that she really knew what his plan was. He had refused to share it with her, and as far as she was concerned, it was merely a random distraction. Not that she minded one bit. It helped her work out some frustration, and she got to go toe-to-toe with Kimmy again, and that was always fun. What had surprised her, however, was Dr. Draken's request that she take the rest of the night off. Hardly one to turn down free off time, she still found it odd that he didn't want her there while he did his usual post-failure ranting. Still, if he wanted her to take the night off, she didn't mind. She was feeling unusually tired. More surprises waited for her the next day when she found out Draken had put her on light duty. This essentially meant she was stuck at the base with very little to do. Again, she didn't mind it for the short term, but when it quickly turned into days, and then weeks, a great deal of frustration began to set in. It didn't help matters when almost every day he would ask her how she was feeling, and then retreat into his personal lab when she told him she was fine. Nearly a month had gone by since the Better Purchase fiasco, and Shigo was ready to tear the walls down from all the inactivity. It was to the point where she was actually hoping Dr. D would come up with some ridiculously overcomplicated plan just so she could go out and do something. At the moment, she was simply prowling the halls to see if any of the henchmen wanted to train with her, but they were at least smart enough to know not to mess with her when she was in this sort of mood. Despite his claims of being a genius, Dr. Draken was not so smart, however. "So, Shigo, how are you feeling today?" he asked good-naturedly. "Why do you keep asking me that?" "Why do you keep asking me that?" she screamed as she shoved her face into his. "I just want to know about the well-being of my people, is all," he said rather unconvincingly. He tapped his fingers together and darted his eyes from side to side, and she continued to glare daggers through him. He knew his lie was quickly falling apart without someone else there to direct the question towards. Luck finally seemed to smile upon him as a henchman entered the corridor. "You there!" he shouted, pointing to the unsuspecting man. "Henchman, what's your name again?" "Percy, sir." "Percy, yes, of course. So, Percy, how are you feeling?" "I'm fine. Wondering when I'm gonna get paid." "Your check's in the mail." "That's what they all say," Percy muttered as he moved on. Draken wanted to give him a dirty look, but he knew that might blow his cover. Instead, he tried to look innocent, and of course failed miserably. Shigo continued to glare at him for several long seconds before she finally let out a huff and walked away from him. He waited until she was gone to let out a heavy sigh of relief and collapsed onto the floor. "If I'm right about this, I may want to look into renewing my health insurance," he thought grimly. Vying to preserve his health as best he could, Draken stayed out of Shigo's way for the next few days, and things continued on this new pattern. That was until Shigo found herself awoken by a powerful nausea that sent her scrambling into her private bathroom and bent over a toilet for a good 45 minutes. When she was positive she was finished, she brushed her teeth for another 10 minutes to get the horrible taste out of her mouth. I know what that's like. And then went in search of her prey. Any henchman unfortunate enough to find his way into her path became closely associated with the hall or floor as she stalked her way to Draken's private lab. She flung up the large double doors with such force that they smashed into the walls and created small cracks, to say nothing of giving the good doctor quite the scare. He had jumped nearly 5 feet into the air, then spun around to face her. His usual blue skin was almost pale white. "Draken!" she screamed upon seeing him. She moved with inhuman speed and was on top of him before he could even mutter a word. She held him by the collar of his shirt, claw tips easily slicing through the fabric and slightly through the skin, while her other hand was drawn and charged with plasma, ready to deliver a killing blow should he give a wrong answer. "What did you do?" She growled, adding more malice with each word. "What makes you think I did anything?" he replied, still trying to play innocent. This only resulted in her yanking and cutting him even harder. He flinched at both the pain and her vicious expression. All right, he said quickly. "Do you happen to remember that incident in Better Purchase about a month and a half ago?" She nodded. "Well, that little pinch you felt was the dart that was to be part of my master plan to get rid of Kim Possible." "And?" she said to gritted teeth. And the buffoon tackled me, and I lost my balance, and I accidentally hit you. Figure that part out. What did it do? It held within it a small retrovirus I devised with the help of that sample of your DNA. My DNA? He began to shake uncontrollably now. Well, yes. You see, I had planned to give the retrovirus and your DNA injected into her body, and that in turn would impregnate her. What? Shigo screamed again, the fire in her eyes and on her hand glowing brightly. Well, obviously it didn't work, did it? I naturally assumed that since the initial sample came from you, it would just break down into your body, and that would be the end of it. But then I remembered that it also caught Kim on the arm and cut her, so I assumed that her DNA mixed with the virus and your DNA, and, well, congratulations? Shigo stood there frozen. A violent tic developed under her left eye as she struggled with the information she had just been given. She really couldn't tell what was worse. The fact that Dragon had violated her trust, hell, violated her, and used her DNA to try and violate another woman who she begrudgingly respected, or the fact that the plan had backfired and now she was the one who was pregnant. Pregnant with the baby of her worst enemy, who just happened to be another woman. There were so many things wrong with that idea that she didn't know where to begin, nor could she think of any long-term solution to the plan. But there was a short-term solution, one that would bring her instant gratification. It was the only thought she could form right now, and it was quite simply, make Draken hurt. The ensuing scream could be heard throughout the entire complex, if not the entire state. While most of the henchmen merely winced in sympathy for what may be happening to their employer, one particular henchman merely sighed and turned his back to his computer. Well, I guess I better start working on my resume, Percy muttered. Shigo stared at the doors of the clinic blankly. She thought that once she got rid of those pesky little protesters, she figured the decision would be easy. But it wasn't. And she had no idea why. She knew it was stupid to be afraid, because it was really just one little operation and then it was all over. It would be easier to do this than to have to deal with the other option. So then, why couldn't she just go in there? Damn it, Shigo, stop being so stupid, she chided herself. There's really nothing to it at all. You've just been watching too many mad-for-TV movies. You don't really want to go through the whole motherhood thing, right? Childbirthing, breastfeeding, changing diapers, waking up at all hours of the night? Ugh, not for me. So all I have to do is walk in there and get this over with. She nodded firmly in her resolve. This was really it. She was going to walk in there and do this thing. Yep, here we go. Walking in right now, she cheered herself on, but she still stood. Damn it, she cursed under her breath. When did I get to be so soft? The question went unanswered as one of the workers of the clinic poked her head out the door to offer her a new one. Miss? You've been standing out there for 5 minutes. Can we help you? No, she replied. There's only one person who can help me now. With that, she walked off, leaving the woman completely confused. Although she had no way of knowing, the feeling was completely mutual for Shigo. She didn't know why she was doing this or even what was going to happen, but deep down, she knew she had to tell her. Kim tried to stifle a yawn as she walked up to her locker. She wasn't sure which was more tiring, foiling the latest plan of one of her crazy foes, or getting through an entire lecture in history class. Personally, I choose history class. She had heard the expression of not learning from history and did not find the subject genuinely fascinating at times, but the way they taught it in high school, it could almost count as torture. Yeah, been there, done that. Of course, it didn't help matters that she had just arrived from foiling one of said villain's plans. This time it had been Dee and Amy with one of her latest genetic combinations of a Gorapotamus. I don't know. I'm having a hard time reading this. You can just read the story if you want. Pronounce it for yourself. I don't know. I'm just doing the best I can. She soon found out that combining the throwing strength of a gorilla with the intestinal tract of a hippopotamus led to a rather messy confrontation. Goripopotamus. Okay. Goripopotamus. I've got it. Goripopotamus. Luckily for her, its aim was terrible. Not so lucky for Dee and Amy. As soon as she opened her locker, Wade's face appeared on the monitor with the small computer housed inside. She always wondered how he happened to have just the perfect timing, but she shrugged it off as a computer genius thing. "What's up, Wade? Someone left a message for you on the site," he explained. "No surprise there. What's it say?" "Just to meet her in the abandoned warehouse at Pier 13 at 7 o'clock tonight." "Cryptic," Kim quipped. "Did they leave a name?" "Nope, it was just signed Miss S." "Great," she sighed. I guess I should go check it out." "It could be a trap." "Probably. But if someone does need my help, who am I to turn them down?" Wade smirked. "You wouldn't be Kim Possible, that's for sure." "Exactly. So, can you print me out a map to this place?" "Yep. Do you need me to set up a ride?" "No, I think I can handle this one on my own. Gotta take advantage of that driver's license sometime." "Guess so. Just as long as you don't forget it all about me," he joked. "Wade, I'd be lost without you." The young hacker smiled at her before he printed off the map. She took it with her usual please and thank you, then went about finding Ron to explain the sitch to him. The rest of the day passed rather uneventfully, and it seemed all too soon the 7 o'clock deadline rolled around. A surprising sense of dread came over Kim as she pulled her family car up to the warehouse. Usually she viewed going into a mission slightly tense was a good thing. It meant she still knew the danger she constantly faced and therefore would be on her guard. But something about tonight in particular felt off. She couldn't place her finger on what. She pushed the thought aside for now and slipped out of the car, Ron following close behind her. They approached the warehouse carefully, on alert of any signs of a trap or ambush. Much to their surprise, one of the main doors had been left wide open. "That's convenient," Ron remarked. "A little too convenient," Kim asked. They continued their cautious approach and slowly stepped into the dimly lit warehouse. Kim slipped on the night vision sunglasses Wade had created for her and did a scan of the immediate area and found nothing. She wasn't too surprised, as she doubted anyone would make an ambush that obvious. Well, except for Draken, of course, but this really didn't seem like his style. So then, who could it be, she wondered. "Hello? Is anyone there? Hello?" Ron called out, snapping Kim back to reality. Ron, she chided as she pulled the sunglasses off her face. "What? I want to get this over with. I'm hungry." "Well then, I won't keep you waiting too long," a new and familiar voice added. Kim spun around so quickly she almost did a complete 360-degree turn. She watched apprehensively as the pale-skinned, green and black jumpsuited figure stepped out of the shadows and into what little light the broken windows provided. "Shigo!" she cried out, ready to jump into action at a moment's notice. The villainous shot back, holding up a hand. "I didn't call you here to fight you." "So then you are Miss S." "Thought you'd figure it out pretty quickly," Shigo mused, then looked at Ron. "You not so sure about." "Oh, I got it. I totally got it," he tried to cover. Shigo simply rolled her eyes. He was as bad at lying as Draken was. "So if you didn't call me here to fight, then why? Finally giving yourself up?" Kim asked. She snorted. "You wish." She then sighed and dropped her shoulders slightly. "No, I'm afraid I have some pretty big news." "Draken's giving up?" Ron asked hopefully. "No, but now that you mention it, you won't have to worry about him for a long time." Kim gave her a question stare. You'll figure that out once I tell you the big news, Shigo went on. Which is... about a month and a half ago, we had a fight in that electronics store, and you got that cut on your arm. The teen hero nodded as she absentmindedly rubbed the since then healed cut. Turns out that cut was from a dart that Dr. D fired, but missed because the sidekick here, she jerked a thumb towards Ron, tackled him and caused him to miss. Who the man? The blonde asked. Ron. Kim tried it again. Exactly. Anyway, Shigo spoke up, trying to steer the conversation back on track. As it so happens, that dart has some of my DNA mixed in with the retrovirus that was supposed to make you pregnant. What? The redhead cried out incredulously. Oh, it gets better. It hit me, and because that cut added your blood to the mixture, well... She paused and patted her stomach. You're gonna be a daddy. Kim's mouth hung open in awe. Out of all the things she had prepared herself for in this encounter, this was certainly not one of them. Nor was it something she thought she could ever hear. She thought that maybe one day, long into the future, she could have kids, but never did she dream that she would be the father. And was Shigo? Wait, this is Shigo we're talking about here, she reminded herself. This has to be some kind of trick. Yeah, she said out loud, drawing eye looks from the other two. I mean, this has to be some kind of trick. And it's pretty low, even for you, Shigo. Oh, please! You think I would make up a story like this? She demanded. Yes, both Kim and Ron said flatly. Well, while making you squirm is always fun, what would I have to gain from humiliating myself? Kim thought about it for a moment. I guess that's true. Still, I can't be the father. That's just sick and wrong, Ron offered. That and impossible. And here I thought anything was possible for a possible, Shigo retorted. She's got you there, KP. Kim sent a glare to her supposed best friend. Whose side are you on anyway? Your side, of course. I'm just saying she had a point. Be that as it may, she said as she looked at Shigo again, I still don't believe any of this. Well, I'm sure that little doohickey of yours has a way to scam people. Why don't you just call your little geek and have him do it? The older woman suggested. Kim glared at her rival for a moment, still unsure what she was trying to accomplish with all this madness. Despite herself, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her communicator, quickly turning it on and calling up her friend. Wade, she said with a hint of urgency. Yeah, Kim? He asked, taken aback by the tone. I need you to scan someone for me and see if you can pick up any other life signs. Okay? She pointed the device towards Shigo, who stood with her arms out in return. A green beam shot out from the sensor on the top and traveled up and down her body. When it was finished, Kim stared intently at the screen and watched as Wade's fingers flew effortlessly over his keyboard. In a matter of seconds, he had the answer, but it still left him looking confused. It's faint, but I'm definitely picking up another life sign, he informed her, looked at the screen again. Kim, is that Shigo with you? Yeah, I'll get back to you with the whole story, she replied, and turned off the communicator before he had a chance to say more. She glared at the pale woman again. Okay, so you are pregnant. That doesn't mean your story is true, though. It could just mean that you... Ah! Shigo cried, cutting her off. I told you I wasn't going to fight you, so if you want to keep it that way, don't finish that sentence. And even if it was someone else's, why would I come to you? I don't know. Exactly, she sighed again, and her body language softened even more. Look, I know you have no right to believe me, and I don't blame you. I've lied in the past. A lot. Probably lie again in the future. But for right now, I want you to look me in the eyes. She paused to make sure Kim did as she asked. Good. Now just put everything that's going on between us in the past and trust me when I tell you, I'm having your baby. For once, Kim found herself at a complete loss. She had stared Shigo in the eyes when she said that, and there were many emotions on display in the two emerald orbs. Confusion, panic, uncertainty, and even a bit of fear. But the one thing that should have been there wasn't. Deception. There was absolutely no falsity behind those words. Shigo was actually telling the truth. She was going to have Kim's baby. Kim was going to be a parent. which was perfectly fine because she was the girl who could do anything. And at that moment, there was only one thing she could think to do: faint. So that is chapter 1 of Maternal Instincts. I'm sorry if I had to repeat a few lines, but I was just trying to make sure that I said it right. Said a few lines right. And this is actually pretty good. It's a pretty good story. I'm definitely gonna be doing the second chapter. I am looking at the page right now that it's on. And main author's notes. Now, I know some of you may think that the premise for this fic looks kind of familiar, as well as it should, since it was inspired by No Drogs' flick, A Small Possibility. I have not read that one. I was just thinking about it one day and thought, what if Shiga was the one that got pregnant? And thus the fic that you hopefully just read was born. I just read it, so if you're listening to this and want to read it yourself, the link is in the description below. Before anyone starts screaming that I ripped off the idea, I basically asked No Drugs if it was alright for me to do a fic like this, and it was. So there, it's settled. This is the author saying this, not me. I'm just reading what was written. Now, as far as how frequently, this is still the author's notes, by the way. Now, as far as how frequently, blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, this was written in 2006, so obviously anything that was written after that was already done. And I'm done with this chapter. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Not so much watching at this point, because there's going to be nothing to watch except for a few pics here or there that I might fade in and out at times. I don't know. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked it, click on the thumbs up button. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you, and I'll talk to you next time. Until then, take care now. Bye bye then.
Oh my god, yes! Oh my god, yes! Yes!
Oh! Oh, disturbing dog. Disturbing dog. Ah! Shit! Where is the... Please be it! Ah!